Hey, F50 Women, thank you so much for joining. We're here to talk to some amazing women, 50-ish and over. Some are a little bit under, but just to share their pivotal stories. And we learn so much from people who have lived a long life. And so if you're older, come on in and know that you're not done yet. If you're younger, come on in and learn how to do it better than we did. Learn it faster, maybe, than at least I did. Today we have Laurie Gerber with us. She is a coach. She's been a coach for 20 years, probably a little bit more now since I heard. She started her life coaching career when she had her, you've heard of near death
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
Well, she had a near divorce experience. And I think that's a cool word. We're going to learn from her journey, who she was, who she is, and the big difference that made in her life and how that can help us make a big difference in ours, marriages and personal lives and everything else. So without further ado, Laurie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I actually think I have three good transformation stories. One
Okay.
is about my marriage, which since you mentioned it, I should share about it.
Okay.
Second one is about my life as a career woman and an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And then the third one is about menopause. So
Which I've been hearing a lot
we're,
lately. I don't know
we're
why,
hitting
but
all three, love, health, and career, all three of the big pain points that people are having as we age.
yes,
Really interesting, hopefully interesting and transformational stories about coming of age in those areas.
right. So let's start and back it up just a little bit. I like to let the audience know about you, who you were. Can you tell us about who you were as a younger woman, a younger girl, whatever is relevant? Yeah, share a
Well,
little bit of that.
here's the fun. I'll give you a fun little tidbit, which is I always used to be jealous of people who had visible, tangible talents like sports or math or I don't know, artistic abilities, instruments,
Right.
right? I looked at my brother, he was very smart in very tangible ways, and I was always just gabbing away on the phone. Like that was my talent,
Okay.
gabbing away on the phone and helping my friends and listening to stories, trying to make their lives better, trying to make my life better. Personal growth junkie from a very young age. I started doing spiritual things when I was 11. I lived in
Wow.
trauma when I was 20. I did all kinds of courses and books in college. And then, absolutely, afterwards, I did therapy. I did all the things I could get my hands on. So I never thought of that as a talent or an aptitude. And it really took me until I was in coaching myself to go back and look at that weird insecurity that I had and ask myself, wasn't I in fact doing my passion? Wasn't I in fact always talented at talking to people and getting people and helping people and understanding people? And now I've been making my living at that for 30 years. Shame on me for not calling that a talent and an aptitude or recognizing it as something special and important. So I always have been the way I am now, which is very perky, a little bossy, a little controlling. And I love to talk. I love to talk to people and I love to listen to people. So that's been a through line since I was a young lady.
Yes. And what I have found is that if we read our own, what I say is read or write your own autobiography, you start to realize who you actually are when you
Right.
look back and see who you've been. And,
Right.
and you can figure out what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Listen up. So if you're trying to figure out where you're at, you're stuck, look back and see who you naturally are, not who everybody else said you should be.
It's so interesting how far afield we can go from following what's been in front of our face the whole time. If
Yes.
someone had told me it was a talent to talk on the phone, it would have been helpful because
Right. Yeah.
I made
Well,
it. I
so
made it. I
yeah.
followed my nose and I had a lot
Mhm.
of good personal growth all along, right? My mother was a seeker and she taught me seeking empowerment and answers and spiritual connection and all that. So it really helped me continue to thirst for methods that would help. And then when I was around 30, I found the Handel method, which is the method that I teach now. And that
Okay.
was when the real, like the real indelible change started.
Nice. So tell us about what a seeker is. What does that mean?
I think just a growth mindset, wanting to be better.
Okay.
And in my case, it was like I always wanted to be happy. I was kind of
Okay.
obsessed with why am I not? It all looks good on paper. Why am I not happy?
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, did you take a different route when you said you weren't happy? You looked at it on paper. Did you like get a PhD in science or something and you just hated it? Or tell us about that.
Good question. I always knew I wanted to help people. So I did the very logical thing, which was to get a teaching certificate to teach
Okay.
school. I
Yeah.
lasted at that
Yeah.
1 year. That was
Okay.
so incredibly hard.
Mm.
My husband lasted in that world. He was also an educator and he did that for probably 10 years, which, that man is endless patience. But I do think that is the hardest job on the planet.
Yes, I
And
agree.
so that was actually how I started. And then I worked in nonprofit and self-help, kind of work for companies, kind of realized I really don't belong working for companies, but I very soon became an entrepreneur because it wasn't working out for me in any kind of structure. Then what I was doing is I was actually selling tutoring. So I was selling this help to parents and families in New York City. And that was fulfilling because I was helping people and I knew what I was doing and I liked talking and I got stuck on the phone all day, but I didn't love the product. So then when I got this coaching from the Handel method, I fell in love with that product and I was in coaching. So I was like, what should I do with my life? Because it looks good on paper what I'm doing. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm successful, I'm doing something that helps people, but I am not happy. And when I thought about being a life coach, it made me want to hurl. It made me embarrassed.
Okay. It
Now,
had a,
I was
yeah,
going to
weird
say this was
connotation.
20
Yeah.
years ago, but it still sounds like a quack to me today, to be honest. So what happened was I knew that I loved this methodology of coaching. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to talk on the phone. And by the way, coaching used to all be on the phone back then, 20 years ago. And I didn't know what to do. So I decided to just keep building my business, keep exploring, keep looking at options, keep thinking about it. And I had literally done this assignment, Julia, where I had to brainstorm ideas of what I could do with my life and say, how did I
Hmm.
feel about it in my head, my heart, and my hoo-ha? Like, was it practical? Did I love it? And did it turn me on or make me feel sexy? Right.
Yes.
So, yoga teacher, that would make me really happy, not too sexy. And oh my gosh, no, I can't live on that salary. Right. Like, so I would just keep, I said, well, maybe I'll be a rabbi, right? Like I knew rabbis
Okay.
that I loved and I was into that. No, I can't go live in Israel. I'm not, no, I'm not going to teach. No. No.
No.
So it
Okay.
head very low.
Yeah.
Um, and then I wrote life coach and it was heart very high,
Yeah.
head very high, very practical for my life. I could work from home.
Yeah.
Heart would love doing it, especially if I can teach this message, but hoo-ha, 3, because I'm embarrassed to say life coach.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. Not 3 months later, the woman who was coaching me, who created the methodology, she had a life coaching division, a corporate division, and a higher education division. So
Mhm.
individual humans, corporations, big and small, and then we were teaching at MIT and Stanford and all these great colleges. Okay. The woman who was running her life coaching division unexpectedly left. And she said, Laurie, why don't you come and be the president of the life coaching division at my company?
Okay. Jump right in.
And I was like, my hoo-ha likes that. that will work for me because I was a president of my little business
Mhm.
selling what I was selling. It was literally the same job, except selling what I was now in love with and living.
Wow.
So it was a beautiful moment. And then
Aligned.
the next
Everything
beautiful
aligned.
moment, fast forward 20 years, was when my parents started to age. They have 4 cancers among them. My kids, I still have one of my 3 kids at home. And I can't be an executive in a company anymore. I can't I am now truly that sandwich generation and I could not manage that anymore. So the next transformation was, oh, I don't belong working in a company anymore. I'm going to license this method and go work on my own. And now I am once again a small business owner.
Okay. Very good. How did you license it? Anyway, that's beyond my knowledge of how you license. Maybe that's details that we don't really necessarily need, but I'm just wondering how long did you stay with that company? And how did that split feel? Was it agreeable with,
Oh,
okay,
that's a long story. Now I know I
okay,
these
okay,
takes so long. But I had always known I could have a licensing agreement when I came on as an executive. That was something I
good.
had always known was an option. So that was always there, but I never wanted to leave because I was absolutely committed. I was at least 18 years there, fully, fully running lots of different things and supported and exposed to so many opportunities and providing a lot. And it really was because my life, I just needed my time back in
Yeah,
under my own control and not to feel responsible or guilty to other people
yeah,
anymore.
Having
And
to take care
so,
of all the generations, parents
yeah.
and children, that, yeah.
And with all the experience I had now, it's one thing to go off on your own after 2 years. You don't have a Rolodex, you don't know what you're doing, but I'm an expert in what I'm doing, and I had all of what I needed. And so it was a very amicable split. I still coach for them. We're still actually the best of partners. And I use the methodology, so I pay my licensing fee. So it's a beautiful relationship and a beautiful transition out in terms of just being what I needed for my life at the
Right.
stage I was at.
I love the theme that I hear going on is that depending on the stage in life, you really search for what worked for you at that time.
Exactly.
So tell
I
us
mean, I'm
about,
not going to say I didn't get stuck because
oh,
there was some stuck. I'm
some
not
stuff.
going to
Okay.
lie. There was some stuck,
Okay.
but the powers that be intervened and I became unstuck.
Right. So keep on going and keep on searching. So tell us about the method. Tell us about what you do now. Tell us about who you are now.
Awesome. So the Handel method itself is a comprehensive life coaching
Mhm.
technique. So we don't have enough time to discuss all of what it is, but
Right.
it
They'll
is
have to get in touch
curriculum.
with you to find out.
Exactly. It's a curriculum and it is taught at these institutes of higher learning and in all these different places. So it's
Okay.
very thorough. But essentially what it does is it brings you from where you are to where you want to be. So it's again, heart, head, body, right? It's very good at helping you access what's true for you, what you truly desire, then getting your thinking and planning on board with that, because
Mhm.
sometimes it's not. So we argue with you about how to think about things
Yeah.
and then getting your body on board. Like, okay, now let's go do the thing we said we think is right.
Okay.
So that's the essential summary of the method. I became sort of the love and dating expert, which is what my specialty is now, because I had that near divorce experience. I
Okay.
used the method to heal my relationship and make it better. It's still getting better. Now we're 30 years in now. I was kind of the most believable, credible speaker about love and dating. So I got all the gigs when we partnered with Match and Zoosk and JDate and all these dating sites. I was the one delivering the content about dating, not just about relationships, but also about dating. So then when I became an entrepreneur again, here at this stage of my life, and I thought to myself, okay, what do I want to focus on? Because I can't just be everything to everyone. I need to have a website. I decided it's dating and it's dating for women over 50 because I'm
Yeah.
sick of the 30 somethings who want to sell out to have a baby. I don't want to
Right.
do that anymore. I'm old enough now to say my favorite client is particularly a menopausal or postmenopausal woman
Mhm.
because she is ready finally to do something for herself. So that is now my specialty.
So the postmenopausal woman is ready to do something for herself, but she is the prime customer or candidate for this dating and love.
Right.
Tell me how that works. How
So
do you do
what
yourself and love at this
what I have found is that most women up to about menopause spend their entire load of energy finding a partner, satisfying that partner, taking care of children, raising children, and working a job. Like all of that. Then their kids leave. Oftentimes they break up with their partner. In fact, the majority of people do. And maybe they get either really good at their job or they can finally delegate in their job, or maybe they're now financially much better off and they don't have to work as much. And suddenly it's like, oh, I mean, even just the kids leaving is enough, right? I was scared of that moment, so I had a third kid late. So, I avoided that moment. I haven't had that moment yet,
haven't had it quite yet.
but
Yeah.
oh, I am so not having that moment yet. My customers are the people who it got quiet in the house. They let go of the love that wasn't right for them. And now they're going, I think I want to do it differently this time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to pick a narcissist again. I don't want to pick someone who's not emotionally available. And they pick those people usually because they wanted to have a child, right? They got that child in a lot of the cases with my clients. And I'm glad they did because they really wanted that. But they're not done yet.
Right.
Not done yet.
Yeah. They still deserve life and love and
Yeah.
relationships.
And they have time and space now because the kids are older and they're not worried. The life during the procreating years is just totally focused on career and kids. It's just not focused on what do I need as a
No.
woman. It's just not. I personally am where I am today because I carved that out, but I never would have carved it out without coaching. I was in no way on that plan,
Because
right? I was on the
you didn't
plan.
even know, because you didn't see it,
I
because
was like, just because my generation, I don't know if this is true for you, was like, you work hard, you achieve,
yes,
you have children, you
absolutely.
stay married. Like that's success. There
Yeah.
was no, I think I'm the first one who could teach my kids success is being happy. Success is figuring out your passion and pursuing it. Success is having healthy relationships. That just wasn't our generation. I
That's
don't
true.
blame anybody. It was better than the generation before.
Yeah. You're
But
right, 100% right. So what's the difference between regular, I don't know what to call it, regular life coaching and the Handle method?
okay, well,
Your
really, it's not for
experience.
everyone. So,
Oh,
so I
okay.
will say some of the
Okay.
ways different from other types of life coaching are number one, because we're trying to get your subconscious thoughts conscious. We're trying to take what's underground and bring it above ground. We have a lot of writing assignments. It's taught in colleges, right? So it's not for somebody who wants to sit and talk about how they feel. That's beautiful. That's helpful. I'm not poo-pooing it, but that's not what this is. This is work. It's homework. It's revealing, and it's pretty comprehensive. So the other piece is if you're not looking to reveal, excavate, divulge, come clean, be true to yourself and what you've been and done, this is not the method for you, because unlike some other methods, we really believe in truth telling and we practice what we preach. So what I have found is most therapists cannot help someone tell the truth if they have not themselves told the truth in their own life.
Yes.
So if you happen to get a therapist that hasn't truth told in the areas you need to truth tell, that therapist is going to actually help you not tell the truth. And that's a bummer.
Oh, that's a bummer. It's a little scary.
Yeah. And again, not everybody wants to learn how to tell the truth. Not everybody believes in telling the truth. Not everybody wants to tell the truth. But that's what you come to the Handel method for,
Okay.
is radical honesty. Not
Yes.
mean, not say everything you think, just being true to yourself and saying that. So it's
Yeah.
really not for everyone. And
Okay.
unlike therapy, I don't know about other coaching, but unlike therapy, I inspire my clients with my own personal stories, right? My life is just as much on the table as theirs because we're not different.
Okay. How did this method help you with your life? I am just so, relationships, especially marriage and male and female, it's just so complicated. Men think so differently. They don't need like what we need, and they have like three things they need in life.
Food, sex,
Right.
sometimes a good pat on the back and encouragement and
Yes.
affirmation.
Yeah.
I'm
Very
like, we need
basic.
to talk.
Yes. For a long time.
I know.
So if you can, I know the story is long, but if you can just give us a little snippet on
Yeah.
how did that change your relationship? Was it all you? And if it was all you, did he sort of all of a sudden drift along? Tell me how that, so give me a
Wait
little bit of
a
that
minute.
juice, or give us
Okay.
some hope that, if we're in a marriage that's kind of
Yeah.
friction, how can we do
Let
that?
me let me start by painting the picture
Okay.
simply that
Okay.
my dream was to have deep connected intimacy with my husband. And
Yeah.
that's where coaching starts. What's the dream? What's the ideal? What's the vision?
That's the dream.
That was
Okay.
my dream. Okay. And then and then the next thing we go is, okay, that's your heart. That's what you want. What does your head say?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, my husband doesn't like to talk to me. He's a jock. He's like not into it. I think he might be dumb. Or maybe he doesn't love
That's
me.
a stereotype.
But this was those were the
Right.
negative bias thoughts in my head. I thought he was stupid and I thought he didn't love me, which are two very negative theories that my unconscious bias continue to prove true instead of the truth, which is neither.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of us are doing it.
right. So first my coach pointed that out. Like, I don't think you're right. And I do think you're gonna ruin your marriage if you keep. And
Yeah.
that was enough. Really, the threat, and unfortunately, this is what it takes for most humans to change. The threat of he said, I want a divorce. And I was like, oh, okay, let me give me a minute.
Yeah.
But his complaint, and it's still his complaint to this day, is that I'm mean, that I'm not kind, I don't listen, and I'm mean. And at my worst, that's true, right? Those are my liabilities. So what the coach had me do was read my dream to him and ask him why I thought we didn't have it. And it took me a long time to get him to give me the answer.
Wow.
But
Okay.
eventually he told me that every time he opens his mouth, I interrupt him.
Yeah.
And he can't get his train of thought back. Like he understands I actually can talk simultaneously to someone else and keep my train of thought. He cannot. He's had concussions, but also that's just not how his brain works. He feels strongly that he should get to the end of what he's saying. and he never does. So he said he stopped trying to talk to me years ago. And
Mm.
that was a moment, a flash moment of, holy moly, I have got this all wrong.
Okay.
If I love, honor, and cherish this guy, I have to zip my lip, even if I'm helping,
Yeah.
even if I think what I have to say is more important. I have to honor what he is asking me for,
Yeah.
bravely asking me for, that he didn't want to tell me. And so I committed in that moment. I'm not going to interrupt you anymore. I
Yeah.
also committed to going back to having sex with him, which I had taken off the table because I didn't feel like it.
Okay.
And, men do generally need that.
Yes.
And I didn't.
Always.
So, but again,
Yeah.
selfish. It was selfish. Both of those
Yeah.
things were selfish.
Yeah.
So was it all me? No, but I was the worst, I think. I was the worst of us too.
Okay.
I think we can nail him for never speaking up and asking for what he wanted. I
Mhm.
think that's a crime also.
Mhm. Yeah.
But luckily, I was the one with the coach, and I could come to him and go, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I won't interrupt you anymore. I will start having sex with you again and learn to enjoy it.
Wow.
And those two things changed everything.
Okay.
Because the more I listened, the more he talked, and the more he talked, the more I wanted to listen. I found out he is actually very smart,
Yeah.
but he puts the point at the end. I was telling you
Yes.
before we
Yeah.
I've been forced to develop patience.
And what I hear you saying is it wasn't, you talked earlier about how women, when we were younger, we went about taking care of everybody else and making sure everybody's taken care of and working hard and all of that. What I heard you saying now is that it wasn't a coaching where you had to be fixed and then you had to go back fixed so the marriage can work. But it was you learned about yourself and then you did it with your husband. It was
Yeah,
something we do together.
it
As
really
I
was.
own my as I own my stuff and bring it to you.
Right. And by the way, I coach women all the time who they clean up their side of the street and they go back and they become better people. And the partner doesn't want to join them. The
Okay.
majority of the time, I say we inspire the other because
Yeah.
as soon as I said I want to listen, he started talking.
Yeah.
But sometimes you clean up your side and they're already too far gone, or they don't want to, or there are narcissists
Yeah.
and they can't.
Yeah. They
So
can't.
it's not foolproof, but I always say to my ladies before you give up, try. Like try everything so you can tell yourself and your kids you did.
Yeah. We try. Yes.
And
Okay.
then once you've done that, you get all the learning from that. You get all the empowerment from that.
Yep.
So you stay or go.
Yeah.
Then you can decide with a clear head if you stay or go.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what, Laurie, is next for you? What is your next dream, your next goal, vision? I don't know. It could be with your coaching or outside your coaching.
I have developed a digital course for daters over 50, women daters over 50.
Okay.
And I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it because I am very expensive as a private coach, and this is affordable for everyone.
Okay.
So, and it's just it's simple. It takes you through, I'm sitting on the bench, I'm afraid to date, to, okay, I'm dating. How do I manage online? How do I do this?
Yes, please.
Okay, I met someone. How do I talk about all these awkward topics?
Yeah.
So it's just the things that I've noticed that people need in
Okay.
this journey, put in a way that's self-serve. You can do it at your own pace. You can come to the group coaching or not. You can participate in the Facebook group or not. And I'm just having so much fun, but it's a small little group.
Mm.
And my dream is to have it be a big, big, big group.
Okay. Yeah. Because there are a lot of women who would love to find their
I
forever
love it.
person.
And they're so great when they cross-pollinate. It just warms my heart because a woman will post, what do you think we're different religions? Or what do you think he hasn't texted back and I said this? And what do you think? How should I bring up my substance abuse concerns? And then everyone chimes in. So there's this beautiful support and also crowdsourced on the court, because I'm not dating on the court. These ladies are all
Information.
dating on the court.
Right.
So I have the wisdom that I've gained from coaching people, but then they cross-pollinate with their actual, how do I set up a video call? How do I, just like their actual tactical knowledge.
Right. That's beautiful. You're not alone. You're not doing it alone,
Yeah,
stumbling through wild field forest or whatever it is. That's
exactly.
awesome. So before, I know we're winding down, but I have a couple of questions for you. So one is, if you were walking along the street and met younger Laurie, what is one piece of advice you would give her?
Oh my God, try to relax, girl. Just try and relax.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
totally okay. I'm still telling her that.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Don't have to, you don't have to use the adrenaline to get the stuff done. Okay. Slow.
Okay. It's
Okay.
okay to relax.
Yeah.
Nice. I
Yeah.
think that's probably advice for a lot of women. And if your younger women are listening, it's okay to relax. Take some time. Yeah.
It
Turn the
actually,
phone
I mean,
off.
that the cliche that it helps is true. You know, the cliche that you actually have to have a full tank in order to run the car versus, just keep going regardless of the gas in the tank.
On steam, thinking you're going to get as far as fast. Yeah, that's a nice analogy. And because you're a life coach, what is the one book that you would advise all women to read?
Oh my goodness, hold on.
If you can choose one. Yeah.
I do. I have it right here. Hold on. See, this is a real bookshelf behind me.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Can you see this or is it
Yeah,
back?
very clearly. Yes.
Now
Okay.
we are coming out with a second book next year, but this is the Handel methods in a book. Maybe it's you.
Okay.
So
Maybe it is you. That's a great title. You
maybe
know,
it's you. Cut the
things are
crap.
not going right. So maybe it is you.
The next book is maybe it's them, so it's not always you, but
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's
usually it's usually you.
the one person that we have control over is us. So it's good to start with that one.
It's perfectly said.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how can the audience members or listeners get in touch with you after this podcast is over?
LaurieGerber.com is the best way.
Okay.
And that's where you'll find a free webinar about dating, which I highly recommend.
Yes.
And you'll find out about my private coaching, my group coaching. I have so many things on the blog. I mean, there's tons of
Yes.
free all the way to very expensive options
Okay.
for how to interact.
For you to get to. So would you advise younger women? Could younger women benefit from your website, this information? Because, there's a lot of younger women online trying to date and just, I
Yeah.
mean, I hear frustration all over the place. Yeah.
But my real wink wink is don't sell out for the baby. You can have one on your own these days.
Yeah. Don't sell
I
out
mean,
the bit.
you're just gonna regret it later.
Yes. And have
You don't
years of
have to.
frustration
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe not a happy child.
I have one more good story for you. I am assuming many of your listeners can relate to the massive transition to move from someone who gets regular periods to someone who doesn't get regular periods to then someone who doesn't get a period at all and instead gets super duper hot and super duper sweaty and
Like
super duper
fire.
and super duper moody and headaches and all of these things.
Yeah.
So I this is another coaching transformation, really, because besides being mean and selfish, I also have a tendency to get sucked into negative medical data. So if I
Okay.
hear someone's sick or if I have a thing called menopause, I go into a rabbit hole of research.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes research can be very empowering, right, Julia? Like sometimes,
Yes.
like I want to learn the best hormone replacement therapy. I'm going to read one article and make my decision and talk to my gynecologist and get on that thing.
Yeah.
That's not me. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 83 YouTube videos in, trying
Yeah.
to become an expert on menopause. And the
Okay.
more I learned about it, the more my symptoms flared.
Really?
Mind-body connection, right? The more
Yeah.
I learned about it, the more I was like scaring myself, upsetting myself,
Mhm.
overwhelming myself. And again, there is so much information that you really can easily do that. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
If you're not, if you haven't been through this already, I don't recommend it. So I called my coach and my coach said, cease and desist. You don't need this. This is not true. You are the master of your mind. You are the master of your story. You are the author of your life. You'll read all about that in the book.
Okay.
And I want you to change your mind right now. What's your ideal? Oh, my ideal is to move through this with elegance and grace and have it be no big deal. That is my ideal. Okay, great. Let's get your thinking and planning in alignment with that. The minute she said it, because she said a lot of things like that to me before and she's never been wrong, I
Mhm.
trust her. I was like, that's right. I had a pain-free natural childbirth, Julia. Like
Did you really?
I can master my mind, right? I can master my mind and my body. I've run a marathon. I've meditated. It's really weird that I would go down that rabbit hole. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I did decide, okay, I'm done. I'm done being a victim of menopause. I'm done being
Yeah.
scared of menopause. I'm done having a trauma about menopause. I'm not, it's bitch. Okay. So I made my little declaration
Yeah.
and then I started to have insights. And these were the insights I had.
Okay.
First of all, when I have a headache, I have to stop working. And as
Okay.
we know, I'm not good at that. So I decided if I get a headache, that's a blessing. I have to stop working. That's the powers that be training me to be more
Yeah.
of who I want to be. Hot flashes. They're freaking funny. I'm sorry. I still think they're funny. Like, I still think it's funny. You could just be like, la, 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 la. And then it's like, you just stepped into
Yes, yes. And it's just,
I think it's funny. I still laugh when it happens to me. I use it to bond with other women.
okay.
I
Yeah,
just, because it's something we all have in common and we can laugh about.
yeah.
If I'm up in the middle of the night, that is meditation time. And I will use
Good
it
one.
meditation and manifestation and taking care of myself. If the powers that be want me up at night to explore my inner workings, I'm not going to expect it to sound good up there, but I'm going to take that time to be spiritual. My vagina's dry. Okay. Now I have to talk to my husband again about how sex works. And we are just like children again,
Yeah.
figuring out how to do it, what positions, what speed, what lube. What an
Yeah.
opportunity to reconnect with my husband,
That is so awesome. To
right?
view it that way rather than, oh my gosh.
I mean,
Really
I was
scary.
so far down the negative path.
Yeah.
I have to add, like, as the symptoms, as I as I lose words, I'm like, okay, that's funny too. Okay. What else? What else have you got for me?
Oh, that one's
You know,
frustrating.
I'm doing the weightlifting, I'm doing the course, I'm doing all the thing. I'm drinking water, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm doing all the things to care for myself to make it as little of a pain as it
Yeah.
can be. It comes with these symptoms is so that you figure out how to be a grown up about being a woman, how to
Yeah.
be a grown woman who takes care of herself, which means you put yourself to bed at night, you drink a lot of water, you eat healthy food, you don't drink the alcohol, you don't overeat, you care for yourself
Yeah.
as God intended. So I don't hate menopause for making us do that. I think we should listen and do that.
That is, I've never heard menopause in such a positive light before, but you're absolutely right.
It shocks everybody when I talk about it like this.
We, at least women that I know, we walk around saying, "Oh my gosh, how horrible it is," and "Oh my gosh, I can't sleep. I get up in the middle of the night." Well, it's a gift that God is giving you. He woke you up.
It
Yeah,
can't be an accident, Julia.
yeah,
What do we think? The beautiful
yeah.
blue sky is on purpose and the beautiful green grass is on purpose.
Ooh, everything else is
But
on purpose but
menopause is
that.
not on purpose from creation? Like that doesn't
Yeah,
add up. But why it's so hard is because we make it hard by not taking care of ourselves, and we make it
yeah,
hard because society makes it hard. And then
yes.
we want to be upset at society and bond over being upset at society instead of using that energy to take care of
What is
ourselves.
it telling you? It's saying this time to take care of yourself. You don't drink the wine if you're going to get blistering hot and
I
turn
mean,
red. Just don't drink it.
we do know what leads to what. If we won't admit it,
And it's okay to change and grow up. And, maybe you can't drink the whole bottle of wine anymore, but maybe that's a good thing. Now you get to drink a lot of water. And
now you're getting
yes,
it. Exactly.
yes, yes. We have the children, but no, now it's time to take care of you. Maybe you need a little bit of help.
That's what we're here for.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I have one sort of out of the box question for you, just to see how you'll answer before we get off of here. Do you or do you not believe that evil spreads faster
I
than love?
believe that love spreads faster than evil.
Do you?
And
Why?
I'm not giving that up because
Okay.
what I believe is really powerful. So I wouldn't dare believe something I don't want to believe.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I believe
Mhm.
birth can be pain-free. I believe menopause can be miraculous.
Yeah.
I believe you can find love at any age.
Yes.
So of course I believe love spreads faster than evil.
Yes. Because I am also a believer that what you believe creates your life. What you think creates your life. I'm not a master of it yet, but I
If
do
if
believe
it was easy,
we'd
Leah,
all be doing it. Lori, thank you so much for being here with us. I love your stories. I love what you do. I love this method. It sounds transformative. I mostly love the power you've taken over your mind and the positivity you've brought to menopause.
thank you for saying it. I'm going against
Radical.
the culture here, Julia.
Listen, that's okay. We need it. We
Yeah,
need it. Because why when we turn 50 or over, some go through menopause at 35 or 40, why does it have to be misery? Why? Stop
great.
watching the videos. Stop
Exactly.
looking at the
Turn
messages.
off the toxins. Turn
Yeah.
off the toxins in whatever way you're taking them in, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, or the news or the news. or whatever research you're doing. It's everything is biased, and the most important bias is the one you would like to have.
Yes.
So I am now biased in favor of love.
Wow. Be biased in favor of love. I'm going
Please.
to walk out of this interview saying that all day, and
Good.
hopefully I'll change my life. Thank you so much, Laurie, for joining us. This was an amazing talk.